Hi, Dan here. If you are a buyer and you are not getting responses from brokers, you're not getting responses from sellers, here's how you flip things. And I guarantee it's something that you're doing wrong, or at least you could do a lot better. Here's 20 minutes of a webinar that I've just done showing buyers how to actually get in front of brokers and get more access. Not only get better access, but position yourself so that you can negotiate with strength, build a great relationship with the seller, and create a great deal for yourself. And it all starts with how you are approaching buyers and sellers. So here are all my tips and tricks and what you need to do as a buyer to get yourself better access and better deals. This is where I think there's the biggest mind shift that can occur in most of the buyers that I speak to. So this module is about thinking about what the seller is thinking about. Buyers think that they're assessing the business, but the seller is assessing them too. From the first interaction that you have with either the seller or the broker, you're only doing one of two things. You're either building or destroying your transaction credibility. This year, it's August already, so we're 8 months into the year. Out of all of the buyers that I've spoken to, I've had three, and I'm talking out of hundreds, I've had 3 buyers send me a business profile. 3. This is what I experience as the broker when I deal with a typical buyer. And they inquire on the business, and the first thing they ask is, can you send me the financials? There's no introduction, there's no buyer profile, there's no professional background, there's no indication of funding, there's no clear acquisition criteria, and there's no explanation of why they're interested. And what the buyer thinks is happening is, well, I'm conducting due diligence, I'm being prudent. But what the seller or advisor is thinking is this person actually capable of buying the business? Is this a buyer I'm willing to spend some time with? So the vast majority of buyers that we deal with fall into this first category. And I think that's what makes buying a business really, really hard for a lot of buyers. They think they're doing the right thing, but actually we need to flip it upside down a little bit. Now, due diligence goes both ways. As the buyer, you're asking, are the earnings real? Are the customers real? What's the business worth? Why are they selling? What are the risks? Can I improve it? And the seller is asking, can this person actually fund this business? Do they understand my business? Can they make decisions? Will they protect confidentiality? Will they look after my staff and customers? Will they waste my time? Will they respond? Will they do what they say they will? And can they actually complete this? So just remember, as a buyer, you're not the only one deciding whether the transaction happens. You're 50% of the transaction, so it doesn't happen without you. But just try to think about what this seller is experiencing. And most buyers, I think they see themselves as they have a job, they source deals, and they challenge the transferable earnings. Yes, that is absolutely your job. But you also have a role. And your role is to be the buyer that sellers want to sell to. And to do that, you have to give to receive first. Most buyers that I personally encounter, they really only focus on the job. And when I get all these questions, like part of my job is to get them on the phone and to actually go through, okay, is this business a good fit for you? Do you have the financial capacity? All of this sort of stuff. But that's not a buyer that stands out to me. And it certainly isn't a buyer that stands out to a seller if you're a buyer that is going to start approaching sellers or business owners directly. So what we've got to do is to actually stand out from the herd. This is where sort of the buyer and the seller, this is where their emotions are sitting, and this is where their mindset is sitting. The buyer is often quite rational, but also has a little bit of ego. Or it's certainly the way that the seller perceives it, because they want to strip apart the numbers and find problems. The seller is generally quite low in rationale, but very high in emotions. And both of these traits do not mix well. So step number 1 on your acquisition journey, and even if you have 2 or 3 or 4 businesses, build a buyer profile and get it in the market. A buyer profile that needs to be 1 or 2 pages. A concise professional introduction, who you are, why you're acquiring, and what you bring. Your professional experience, your leadership roles, your industry experience, have you owned a business before, and your operational capability. Your funding capacity, so that's available acquisition capital, indicative acquisition range, and your overall preparedness. What your buy box looks like, so that's your industry, geography, purchase price, earnings you're looking for, management requirements, and what sort of strategic fit you're looking for. And then what your capabilities are, what you are really going to bring to the business. Now distribute this to brokers, accountants, advisors, and business owners. Step number 2 is build the trust first. And where we see most buyers is they fall into the box on the left, which is they're asking, what's the revenue, what's the profit, what's the asking price, can you send me the P&L? Now, you cannot do a deal without knowing that information. This is more about getting that information. A lot of us, when we started this webinar, said, I can't get information from brokers and sellers. It's a key issue. Like I inquire on businesses all the time just to test things out. I might hear back from 2 or 3 brokers if I inquire on 10 businesses within a week. So it's about actually getting the access and being the buyer that the sellers and the brokers and the accountants, etc., want to remember. And just remember that for the seller, it feels transactional if you're asking these questions straight off the bat. What's the revenue? What's the profit? Etc. It's not great with their high emotions. And what we see sophisticated buyers do is they understand it's an emotional process for a seller, and they meet their emotional energy. So they might start their interaction with the seller saying, or the broker saying, here's my buyer profile. I'm quite interested in your business and I want to do a deal at fair value. I don't want more information from you yet. First, I want us to be comfortable with each other. Can we have a meeting? When we say I want to do a deal at fair value as well, just remember, we'll sort that out later. We haven't determined what fair value is. It's more about your intent that you want to do a fair deal. So you have your first meeting, and this is a great way to start to develop and nurture trust with your seller. Why are you considering selling now? These are the questions you can ask in your first meeting. Don't get to P&Ls, don't get to finances, don't get to profit, etc. Why are you considering selling now? What are you most proud of building? Who are the people that we absolutely can't afford to lose? Where do you think the next owner could take this business? What would you like to see happen to your staff and customers? What are you looking for in me? What's important to you in this transaction? What's one thing your instinct has told you to do in the business that you haven't done? If you were keeping it for another 5 years, what would you do? Knowing what you know about me, do you think I'm a fit for your business? And these 2 are the most important. You have to agree on these before you move to the next step. I would like to take the next steps. Can we agree on what those are? And then you talk about what those are. That could be things like, okay, so we do have a non-disclosure agreement in place. So Mr. or Mrs. Seller, would you please provide information and I'll send you a list of information. After that, could we agree that I have a week to go through it and I come back to you with any questions and we have a more thorough Q&A and I might involve my accountant and perhaps you might involve your accountant. And after that, if things are well, then I'd like to submit an offer and we can start talking about offer and terms. And the other question that's really powerful is, can we agree now that if we don't see eye to eye on something, we communicate about it and we try to resolve it? You can outperform most buyers by just doing the basics exceptionally well. So I've got a glass business that I'm selling. We're up to about 32 total inquiries. I've already put a black mark against 9 buyers of 32, just simply because they're either non-responsive. I can tell from the types of questions that they're asking that they're not going to be a buyer of any of my clients. If you're a buyer that is responsive, you're relatively prepared, you ask thoughtful questions, you clearly make decisions, you communicate your position if it changes, and you deliver on what you say you do. If you say you respond on a certain day, respond on a certain day. Very, very basic stuff. Most buyers I personally encounter, and if you ask most brokers, they'll say the same thing. They'll send information out, like a starting pack of information out to a buyer and never hear back again. The stronger your relationship and credibility is, the better your negotiating position. So focus on building your relationship and credibility. Focus on then getting to the fun part, the negotiating part, after you've done that. And don't try to leapfrog building that relationship and credibility. You will be able to negotiate much stronger terms once you've done that. One of a buyer we sold a business to, his name is Dom. He bought a business for 1.5 million. He was the last buyer introduced to the business. There were 2 other offers. The highest offer on that business was 1.69 million, almost $200,000 higher. The reason Dom got the business is because he ticked all of those boxes. He spent time with the seller early on, focusing on their relationship, focusing on what the seller wanted. And by the way, his offer wasn't just lower by almost 200,000. He also had a significant portion of the, well, not as significant, he had about 300K of the purchase price deferred. Buyer number one, 1.69 million, was a full cash offer. And the reason why Dom got the business was because he'd spent time giving the seller confidence that he would complete the deal and also be a good successor of the business. Of the other two buyers, Dom was also not in the industry. The other two buyers were. So once you've set up and you've been clear with your approach and you've set up your buyer profile, now it's time for you to deal source. And it's not that hard. You've just got to do it consistently. It's actually your job to start with. I should have added that to the job card, slide before, but your job is actually to deal source. That's where it all starts. So set up your buyer profile, contact business owners, brokers, accountants, lawyers, etc., and send them your buyer profile. And if you can, have a chat with them. Because when you do that and you've shown that you're buyer B here, not buyer A, you'll be the one who gets the call. You'll build your access.